Hey everyone, if you're new to this channel, I've done a ton of videos on the LoomPad 2 and the NubiaPad 3D, and I'm going to continue to make those videos, but in this video I'm going to be focusing on the incredible stuff that you can do with this 3D laptop, the ACER Predator Helios 300 Spatial Labs Edition, which is a fancy way of saying this is ACER's 15-inch 3D display laptop, and it really is incredible. It comes with 4 core apps that allow you to do various different things, and I'm going to be making a series of videos introducing each of those, and today I'm going to focus on the AI 2D to 3D conversion app and the different things that it can do. In a lot of ways it's very similar to the LoomPad 2, but there are a couple things that it can do differently that the LoomPad 2 cannot. I think you'll be surprised to find out what those things are. So let's get right into it and take a look at what this Spatial Labs Edition 3D laptop can do and how good the 2D to 3D conversion technology is. Oh, and by the way, along the way, I'm going to be including some side-by-side images so that you can just view those in 3D. I'm going to take images in a way that actually show you how good the 3D image appears on this laptop, for real, like popping out of the screen. So during those parts, if you have a 3D device, you can just toggle over to 3D mode and you'll be able to see how cool that stuff actually looks on this display in 3D. All right, let's jump right into it and see how good this AI conversion really is. To start out with, I just want to explain, this laptop is made by ACER, and ACER has developed something known as the Spatial Labs Experience Center. It's like the main software hub for the 3D stuff you can do on this laptop. This laptop functions great as a regular gaming laptop, but these 3 apps are, like the name says, this experience hub for all the things that you might be doing in 3D on this laptop. The first one is Spatial Labs GO, which is the one we're going to be looking at today, and what that does is convert stuff from 2D into 3D. Second one is the Spatial Labs Model Viewer. It's a model viewer for 3D models, like the one that exists on the LoomPad 2. And then Spatial Labs Player is used for viewing media files that are in different 3D formats, like side-by-side video files if you want to watch it. And then Spatial Labs True Game is the app that allows you to go in and play games on Steam that have been adjusted so that they're playable natively or pseudo-natively in 3D. And they're super cool. I'm going to introduce all these apps in a series of videos, but today let's take a look at Spatial Labs GO. When you click on Spatial Labs GO, it'll ask you if you want to start up the app, and you click OK, and then there will be this little widget or icon that appears on the upper right-hand side of your screen that just says Go, the Spatial Labs Experience Center logo. Now you're ready to use the app and convert anything from 2D into 3D. When you do that, you need to make sure whatever you're trying to convert is in full screen. If I try to convert something while it's not in a full screen window, it'll give you an error message saying, sorry, this isn't in full screen mode yet, you can't convert it into 3D. I'm just going to show you quickly how it works before explaining the different settings that you can change for this. So I prepared a couple AI generated images that I made myself using Adobe Firefly, and I want to test out the AI 2D to 3D conversion of images first. The first one is this image of a hyena. So I've not viewed these in 3D myself yet. I'm going to be seeing how this works for the first time in this video. So I'm going to make this full screen, zoom in so it fills the entire screen, and now all I need to do, there's a shortcut to activate the conversion, which is just Alt-G. And this just, it's so cool seeing this image just come to life in 3D before your eyes. Like, it's pretty quick, and the results are just fantastic. Like, first of all, the hyena is popping out of the screen about this far, which is probably around 3 inches, maybe even more. And then the clouds and the sun in the background are, I would say, at screen level or a little bit behind it. And then the grass is kind of popping out at different levels of depth. It's a very dynamic looking image with a lot of depth once you convert it. Let's take a look at another one. Again, you got to remember to go full screen. This one is an oil refinery, also created using Adobe Firefly. Let's use the same shortcut, Alt-G, and it'll convert it into 3D. And this is just so cool. Like, the backdrop, the way this oil refinery just pops, each of the towers and the different buildings are kind of at a different level of depth, but they're distinctly out from the background. And then these mountains and then the lake are in between the oil refinery and you, and popping out of the screen. Oil towers are also already popping out of the screen. And this is just such a cool effect. It makes this look beautiful. As I'm doing this, this isn't saving these images in 3D. So like on the LoomPad 2, when you convert something into 3D, it basically allows you to save that 3D version in 3D. You can't really do that with this, which is a downside. You're just viewing something in 3D and you have to repeat that process every time, but it's extremely convenient because you just have to use a shortcut and can convert it instantly. If you want to adjust the level of depth and pop out, you got to do something different. I'll show you that in a moment. Here's another kind of animated style image of a superhero flying through a city. And if I do this again, this one pops like crazy. I mean, it's really cool because you can actually see this person is flying off the screen very clearly. And then even the details in this city, like the rails here, you can tell that there's a gap between the lines and it's coming out further compared to the buildings behind it. And then these two skyscrapers clearly have space between them, and then they're closer to you than the buildings behind them and the sky and the clouds. So this makes the scene feel super alive and dynamic. The last two I've prepared here are more realistic images that look more like photos. The quality for this is also really outstanding. With these more realistic images, or any in general, there is a little bit of a tendency with this laptop for there to be kind of distortion, or a little bit of, sort of feels like mini crosstalk happening at the outlines of objects in the image, usually people or animals. And I think the reason this is happening is because it's, in order to do this AI conversion, it has to create a second image. Like, think of it as a side-by-side image where you only start with one and you have to somehow generate the other one, which should be from a different view, and it has to kind of guess what that view is going to be. And in the process of doing that, I don't know, it's doing certain things that make a novel second view, but in the process there's a bit of artifact, there's some stuff that's a little bit off in the aligning of the new angle that's being generated. So you can sort of see that around the edges of the dog and this man, but it doesn't bother me. This image still looks way cooler in 3D than it's in 2D. I love the way this stuff turned out. Also got really good pop out, and then a good amount of depth. And then this final one of a couple walking through a downtown area. It looks beautiful in 3D. Same problem with the outline of these people, but they're really popping out of the screen. And then the background, you can't as clearly see all the depth and characteristics of the background because it's blurry in the first place. So I think the AI is doing an okay job noticing that, and then not doing too much fancy stuff with this blurry background. It does add a little bit of depth to the people versus the trees and the buildings in the background, but it's just harder to see because everything's blurry, which is fine. This still looks pretty cool. That's just a basic intro to how you convert stuff from 2D to 3D using this laptop, but I want to show you some of the settings that you can go into to adjust and make the level of depth and pop out different. For example, if you click on this settings like symbol here, it'll show you the settings for this app, the Spatial Labs GO app, where you can use these slide bars to adjust the amount of depth and pop out that you want. I have them both maxed out because I feel it adds the most immersion, and the effect in general turns out really great all the way at the full level. So level of depth 150%, level of pop out at 200%. I think this looks great, but you can tweak it to your preferences. It's just every time you set it, you have to come back here and set it and then go and view things and convert them. You can't like adjust it really while you're doing it at the same time. So there's no slider or anything, but this isn't that inconvenient. I think once you find the setting that's right for you, you just set it that way and then leave it there. And then you can enjoy as much content as you want. And this applies to 2D to 3D video conversion as well. And the other thing is adjusting the shortcut. So you can set the shortcut that I've been showing you to a different set of keys to trigger this AI conversion. And then also one thing that's important to take note of is that right now I have this set to convert 2D to 3D, but there's one other setting that you can toggle between, which is taking a side-by-side image and displaying that in 3D. So for example, what happens if I switch over to that now is if I change this from 2D content to side-by-side, and then I go back to any of these images and try to convert them again. Now, since I toggled over to side-by-side, it thinks this is a side-by-side image and it's going to try to display a side-by-side image in 3D to me, but this isn't side-by-side, it's a regular image. So when I do this, it turns out all messed up because it's trying to show a side-by-side image to me in 3D, but it wasn't a side-by-side image in the first place. So if you see this happen and you feel like, hey, the 2D to 3D conversion is broken or it's not working, it's probably because you have it set to side-by-side mode, not 2D to 3D conversion. You got to toggle between the two and make sure you're using the one that you want. While I have this mode open, I might as well just show you what it looks like when you do this with a side-by-side photo or video. This is the Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I took a video of in-game footage that was played in side-by-side mode. So if I go full screen with this and then do this same shortcut, now it's going to take this side-by-side video and display it to me normally in this gorgeous 3D. So this is how you use it. If you have a side-by-side video or something, you can view that in 3D just using that shortcut. You don't even need to go into your media player to do it. If it's just regular side-by-side, you can use this shortcut to view any of that stuff in 3D instantly. It's super convenient. If you're enjoying this video so far, or if you're interested in seeing what it's like to play AAA titles that are made to play in 3D, like the Shadow of the Tomb Raider and a ton of other ones, definitely give this video a like and remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that stuff. All right, let's move on to the next thing that this AI 2D 3D conversion can do, which is 2D to 3D conversion of any video, like on YouTube. And I'm going to start by showing you something, testing out with a video on my channel, like this video where I introduced a 3D smartphone that's going to be releasing in 2024. If I play the video in full screen and hit this button to convert, it's a little bit messed up. So that happened because I forgot to go back in here and switch over to 2D to 3D conversion rather than the side-by-side display mode. Now I'm going to convert this and see how it turns out. And here's my video playing real time in 3D, instantly converted. That took less than a second, I think. And I'm popping like way out of the screen. This almost looks native 3D because it's not a very complicated scene. It's just me talking in the middle with some stuff in the background. And the quality of this is just insane, like how good it is to do this instantly. I think it's gotten better from the time that I first purchased this laptop. If I just pause this here, this image of the founder of Leia is popping out of the screen, same with the phone. Like it's turning this image in this article into 3D. And then also my little bubble here is in 3D too, with me popping out of it. So this is super cool. Like it's really good quality, handling all the right things in the right way. So that's just a quick example. Now let's take a look at a movie trailer of a movie that I think would have been amazing had it had a 3D release, but unfortunately it did not, which is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The original Spider-Verse movie did have a 3D release and it was insane. I watched it in 3D and the animation is just next level. So it's so suited for 3D, but really I was so sad to find out. I was planning to go see Across the Spider-Verse in theaters in 3D, only to find that they decided not to make a 3D release because I think these people don't realize how big 3D is becoming and that all this technology is finally coming back bigger than ever. Let's check out that trailer in 3D. Thankfully, this method can be used to watch the trailer in 3D. And when you pull up a video like this full screen, it actually is kind of nice because there's a little prompt button that pops up and it asks you, do you want to display something, a 2D video in 3D or side-by-side content in 3D? That way it's kind of like a shortcut. Even if you haven't changed or toggled between the two for your shortcut or you forgot to, there'll be this little prompt that allows you to pick either one anyway, and then you can just instantly initiate whichever one you want. All right, let's convert this trailer into 3D. Watching this in 3D like this just shows me how insane this movie would have been in 3D and why it really did deserve a 3D release. But it's so cool that this technology is already at this point where like these characters are seriously just popping way out of the screen. The environment looks awesome, fits so well with this animation style. These city backdrops and this type of dynamic motion with the effects that are going on around it, the different animation styles and these different layers and things. It's so insane to see this in 3D compared to just watching it in 2D, especially glasses-free 3D. Like when you go to the movie theater, you still have to wear glasses, but if you watch it on something like this, everything is just happening. Like it's so immersive because it's kind of coming into your own space. And then it's like a window into this movie that you're watching, and everything just looks so good this way. And because of the screen size, it just gives it even more impact because you have the 3D effect is actually displayed in quite a large area to you. Now, one of the things that this can do that is a bit of a surprise, if we skip over to the next video, you'll see that we have this ad, right? Which I would normally never watch, but probably still will not watch this particular ad, but it's actually converting the advertisement into 3D. So depending on the ad, it's really interesting to just watch this and see like how good it converts an ad like this. Is actually doing a super good job. Like it's making this game look kind of cool because it's in 3D, which is something that you don't normally see, especially for a game of this style. Never seen anything like this playable in 3D before. But this is instantly kind of showing you what it would look like if this game, whatever this ad is for, was in 3D. I think it's pretty cool, to be honest. Good for advertisers because it will make you take a second or think a second and just kind of appreciate how cool anything looks when it's turned into 3D. Moving on to the last example for this video that I want to show you of something unique that this can do that the LumenPad 2 cannot. It can basically take anything that's full screen into 3D, and that means that you can go to Sketchfab and load up any of their models without downloading it and then have it converted into 3D. So it won't display as a native model viewer on the web in 3D, but you can view it in 3D using this conversion method. I'm going to convert this one, for example. Now that I have this model in full screen, I can just use the same shortcut and it converts it into 3D. And it looks really good. Not as good as if it were like natively displayed in 3D, but it's still good enough to appreciate. Like it looks cool and more dynamic, convincing and alive than it would if you just viewed it in 2D. And the coolest thing is I can still move this model around while viewing it in 3D. And it could be anything, any model at all on here. You can check it out and kind of demo it like this using this AI 2D to 3D conversion, which is not something that's possible on the LumenPad 2 because this laptop's tech works with basically anything that's full screen. This is super cool. It's just awesome. Even when you get up close, like all the details, the ridges or the folds in this clothing versus this person's head down to their neck actually pop out in distinct 3D detail. And as you adjust it, it reacts to it immediately and shows you everything pretty much the way it should be in 3D. Not expecting this to be at the level of a regular native 3D model viewing experience, but it's still really cool and extremely convenient. So a model like this by Conrad Justin would normally be $45 to own, but if you just want to get a feel for what it looks like in 3D, you just do this, convert it to 3D, and it's so cool seeing like this underwater scene of this serpent or dragon and then moving it around. I think it's just one of the coolest things that you can do with this laptop, because some of these models are insanely good quality. Normally you'd have to buy them, and even if you did, they wouldn't necessarily be compatible with the model viewer on this laptop or the LoomPad 2, because neither one has full compatibility with all the textures and formats that are present on Sketchfab. But with this conversion stuff, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's compatible with everything, because it's just converting the image that's being displayed to you. If I get up close, like this dragon's head is popping way off the screen, the bubbles are floating out, even these light rays are kind of have this 3D effect, and then the jellyfish. It is so cool. So that's pretty much it for this video. There's just some cool, unique stuff like converting ads from 2D to 3D. Makes that experience less of a pain and kind of more entertaining, especially, at least for me, but I think for most people, you will notice it. You'll start to pay attention to ads more than you normally would, in a good way, not in a bad way. The second thing is the ability to do stuff like where you can view anything on Sketchfab in 3D, but there's also probably a bunch of other stuff that you can do similar to this that I haven't discovered yet. Anything that you can think of that could go full screen on your laptop can probably be viewed in 3D, with the big exception being anything that has digital copyright protection, like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. I've tried it. I loaded it up in full screen, really excited, feeling like, oh, this is gonna work. Push the button, and I just get a big black screen. So that stuff is still protected from this, just like it's protected from LeaTube on the LoomPad 2 and the NubiPad 3D. Those companies are gonna have to release their services in 3D, which I'm certain that they will eventually. It's only a matter of time, but at this point, it's still not possible. Outside of those streaming services, there's essentially infinite content to enjoy in 3D. Final thing I wanna say is that if you've watched this video to the end, chances are that you have some way to view stuff in 3D. And I am running kind of a test channel where I'm uploading stuff, practicing ways to deliver my entire videos in 3D. So on my test channel, I'm gonna be uploading the same video, but fully in 3D. If you could check that out and give me some feedback, what you think works, what doesn't work, or if you're just happy to be able to view it in 3D, let me know. That serves as motivation for me, and I wanna be able to work on that even more over time, so that as more and more people have 3D devices, with the arrival of the Apple Vision Pro and all these different things, I'm trying to find out the best way to deliver stuff in a fully 3D format. So if you're interested, hop on over to that channel and take a look at the fully 3D version of this video. Let me know what you think, and like and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this video, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next one.